Welcome to another edition of Major League Minor. Today we're going to cover a little bit about the XFL, the CFL, and what's happening with the Oklahoma City Bounty Hunters. Jumping right in this week, we're going to talk about the XFL championship game. We've waited all year long for these two to meet up. We knew a while ago, actually, a few weeks ago, that these two teams really are the top two contenders in the XFL. It did play out, and let's go ahead and recap last week's scores. First, we saw the Oklahoma City Bulls travel up to Kansas to face off against the Kansas Cougars. The Bulls had a lot of momentum going into this game and thought that they could possibly make it a tough game, a tight game, but by a score of 48-0, the Bulls just ran out of steam. The Cougars keep continuing to rampage all the teams in the XFL, and well, we'll see how this championship game goes. Next up, we saw the Northern Oklahoma Bulldogs face off against the Oklahoma Monarchs in Tulsa. The Monarchs, coming on this game with a lot of momentum, they took care of business, and by a score of 26-6, they really proved that they belong in the XFL championship. Some bittersweet news to add to this story, though. Unfortunately, it's come to our attention that Mike Hilbert, the owner and head coach for the Northern Oklahoma Bulldogs, has announced his retirement from the men's side of football. He's going to, however, focus on the women's side and will be coaching and, of course, owner of the Northern Oklahoma Extreme. We at Major League Minor wish him the very best on his men's side of retirement. A little history to add to this is Mike Hilbert was the first commissioner for the Central Football League dating back to 2005. He's owned several football teams and has mentored and coached a lot of guys throughout the years and has done a great job. We at Major League Minor wish him the best and continue on to see a lot of improvement with the women's side. Now let's dive into the game of the week. The game of the week, of course, is the XFL Championship with the Kansas Cougars facing off against the Oklahoma Monarchs. The last time that these two met up was in Week 2 of the XFL, and the Kansas Cougars took care of business as they won by a score of 20-12. It was a close game to begin with, but the Cougars proved that they had a lot of maturity early on as they've been able to really be a cohesive unit for the number of years. The Oklahoma Monarchs, however, this was going into Week 2 and weren't quite ready to gel. It took them a little bit of the season to really get there, to really make the mark in the XFL. But I think that this is going to be an outstanding game. Now, as you're seeing on the poster here, the game is going to be played at 1300 West Radio Lane. That's in Arkansas City, Kansas, not to be mistaken with Arkansas, but in Arkansas City, Kansas. Saturday, May 21st at 4 p.m. for your kickoff. Weather for this game, it's going to be raining from about noon to 4 o'clock. It's going to be partly cloudy from about 4 p.m. on. Your high is going to be about 84 at kickoff, and the winds are going to be southeast at 12 miles per hour with a 75% relative humidity, which means it's going to be a bad hair day for ladies. It's going to be muggy out there, but it's going to be great football weather. Now, getting into my prediction, after analyzing everything in this game, this is going to be a tough game in my book. And honestly, this is going to be a game, if you're in this area, you got to watch this one. This is an awesome game. This is going to be an awesome matchup between two heavy hitters, two ground it and pound it, gridiron football right here. But my prediction, the Kansas Cougars win again in their second XFL championship by a tight one, 20-17. Now we're going to talk about the CFL Wild Card Playoffs. Now to recap last week's scores, we saw the Oklahoma Desperados face off against the Oklahoma Nightmare. The Desperados, traveling light, traveling all the way to Velma, Oklahoma, still pull off a nice decisive victory by a score of 34-12. Next up, we saw the River Valley Reckoning face off against the Arkansas Battle. The Battle are a really well-seasoned team, and by a score of 53-6, you can see why that these guys are going to be a heavy hitter in the CFL brackets and the CFL playoffs. Next up, the Kansas City Saints travel down to Joplin to face off against the Joplin Crusaders, and they got crucified by the Crusaders. The Crusaders pulled off the highest victory margin in the entire year by a score of 71-0. The Saints go in a little bit light, but they played out the whole season. I commend the Saints also for completely finishing out the season. They have some things to work on, but they have a lot to build up in the offseason. Next up, the Queen City Grizzlies took a forfeit win against the Wichita Assassins to close out their regular season by a score of 13-0. The Arkansas Guardians faced off against the Arkansas Extra. The Guardians really coming into this salty because they had a lot of high expectations this year and were going along limping, but they managed to win this one by a score of 26-18. Finally, you got to see the Arkansas Steelers face off against the Green Country Phoenix in the DCFL, first championship game in the DCFL. And the Phoenix, by my prediction, of course, won this one by a score of 12-6. The Phoenix were supposed to go on for the 8th spot in the CFL wildcard standings, but have decided and elected to go ahead and forego this year because of low numbers. So as you look on the CFL bracket, the new and improved CFL bracket, you see that there is a forfeit win by the Oklahoma Nightmare from the Oklahoma Guardians. The Guardians didn't have enough players to compete in the CFL playoffs. So your game of the week, the Arkansas Steelers, they're going to be facing off against the Arkansas Extra. Now the Arkansas Steelers haven't played the Extra. The Steelers, however, were supposed to play them, I believe, in week 2, but had to give the Extra forfeit win due to the lack of home field at that time. So these two guys haven't really met up yet. So this is going to be a very interesting game. Should be played at the Little Rock Central High School Stadium, from what I understand, in Little Rock, Arkansas. Kickoff tentative at 6 p.m. And your weather for this game is going to be a high of 86 degrees, partly cloudy to light rain as we go along throughout the day. Winds are about 4 miles an hour coming from the east. Relative humidity at about 65%. So my prediction for this game, you're going to see a tight one at the beginning, but I think the Arkansas Extra are going to take off with this one by a score of 21-12 to advance on to the next round of the CFL playoffs. The next up, we're going to talk about the APDFL and, of course, the Oklahoma City Bounty Hunters right after this.
Hey! Do you want to feel so energetic? Try Power Thirst. Energy drinks for people who need gratuitous amounts of energy. With all new flavors like chocolate. Chocolate energy. It's like adding chocolate to an electrical store. Sound the alarm. You're gonna be uncomfortably energetic. What's that? You want strawberry? Well, how about raw berry? Made with lightning. Real lightning. Sports. You'll be good at them. It's an energy drink for men. Energy. These aren't your dad's puns. These are energy puns. Turbo puns. Science, energy, electrolytes, turbo lights, power lights, more lights than your body has room for. You'll be so fast, Mother Nature will be like, slow down. And you'll be like, fuck you, and kick her in the face with your energy legs. You'll have so much energy, just running all the time. Power running, power lifting, power sleeping, power dating, power eating, power laughing, power spawning babies. You'll have so many babies. 400 babies. Give chocolate to your babies and they'll be good at sports. Make your babies run abnormally fast. They'll run as fast as Kenyans. People will watch them running and think they're Kenyans. They'll race as fast as Kenyans against actual Kenyans, and it'll be a tie and they'll get deported back to Kenya. Hey, go with the sure thing. Don't gamble on your energy. Snake eyes. Try Try Power Thirst, the energy drink that will make you soar.
Welcome back. Now we're going to talk about the Oklahoma City Bounty Hunters. Let's look at this week's standings in the APDFL. The Chiefs remain number 1, followed by the Oklahoma City Bounty Hunters, who are both undefeated. Then you have the Capital City Cobras, the Nightmare, the Horsemen, and then of course this week we're going to be facing off against the Louisiana Lightning, coming in at 7-2, followed by the Warriors, Generals, the Mississippi Dynasty, and rounding up your top 10 are the Mississippi Sting. Now the Lightning are going to be facing off against Oklahoma City this week. And as you remember back a few weeks ago, the Oklahoma City Bounty Hunters really had a run for their money, facing off against a Louisiana Lightning team that really came on and took it to them in the first half. But it took all of the second half for the Bounty Hunters to finally overcome the deficit and finally won by a score of 37-20. This week, the Lightning are facing off against the Bounty Hunters again. This time we're going to be playing at Alcott Middle School. Not at Capitol Hill this week, but at Alcott Middle School in Norman, Oklahoma. And kickoff is set for 6 p.m. Weather's supposed to be a high of 87 degrees at kickoff, with winds coming out at 13 miles an hour from the east, with about a 74% relative humidity. Should be good football weather. And that about wraps it up, folks, for this week. Next week, we won't have any football whatsoever as it's Memorial Week. Everybody's going to take off, do some grilling, do some drinking, doing some lounging, spend some time with your family. Forget everything about football until the next week. And until next time, folks, I'm Chris Dotson reminding you to go watch some football.